guidelines. So the first one is, please request everyone to please turn on your cameras and consider this as a physical session for effective participation. Participates as much as possible since the facilitator has taken efforts to plan the session. Keep your audio on mute to avoid any disturbances. Request you to ask questions at the end of the session to avoid disrupting the flow of the facilitator. And please fill the feedback form, which will be shared at the end of the session. And now let me introduce you to the facilitator for today, Ms. Tanu. Ms. Tanu Garg is a distinguished educator and facilitator for our workshops. As the IP PYP three-grade lead, she brings a wealth of experience in guiding young minds. Her expertise extends to mentoring students for the PYP exhibitions, where she has skillfully nurtured their inquiry and critical thinking skills. A certified project-based learning practitioner and a CAT-trained educator, she has a teaching philosophy rooted in fostering a love for learning and promoting academic excellence. A graduate of Delhi University, she hails from the picturesque valley of Dehradun, where she draws inspiration from the serene beauty of nature. Currently, she is associated with Ebenezer International School, Bangalore, where she continues to inspire and educate young minds. We are thrilled to have her facilitate our workshop, and we look forward to benefiting from her knowledge, expertise, and passion for education. Welcome to the session, Ms. Tanu, and over to you.
Thank you for the pleasant introduction. Uh, good evening, everybody. I am here to present my experience on PBL. Since couple of months back, I had an opportunity to conduct or implement PBL in my classroom setting, and here uh, my main focus or our main focus was on how to incorporate PBL into our already inquiry cycle. We do follow cat-medoc cycle. So I have tried to, because generally when we look here, we see that PBL is something which is taken care in silos in the IB inquiry. But here, my main focus will be on to make sure that they go hand in hand. Also, I will be just sharing my journey, what went well, how I started with the PBL, what has shifted in, what were the shifting centers as I was a facilitator from the beginning in the PBL, and I would really like to request you to come up with the questions and so to make it an insightful session. As to begin with, as I said that we were inquiring into how the word works, and that is how our school has decided that why not to convert this PD theme of how the word works into a PBL one. As we know that we do have learning objectives for the task we assign to the student or anywhere else. So we do have learning objectives for this workshop. I will be taking you through the components of the PBL. Also, I will be telling you how well or effectively we can implement that into our IB inquiry cycle. This thing comes into our mind, or when we hear this word doing project or versus the project based learning, we feel that it is somewhat similar in a way. I'm sorry, doing project and project based learning, they appears to us to somewhat similar. I would like to request you to please, do you find them similar, or do you have any prior idea how are they exactly similar, or how does it work? I would like you to drop your comments in the chat box. Okay, let me tell you how this project and project-based learning functions. When you talk about doing project, when we take any learning engagement of any lesson, any learning engagement of any inquiry we are inquiring into, we do focus on that. We do have lines of inquiry. First, we do have a central idea, and the followed by the lines of inquiry, and we do make sure that we fulfill the learning engagements which directs toward the objective of fulfilling about learning lines of inquiry. But here the project based learning is about you decide the project first, and then the project derives the whole learning. Let me give you a example. Let's say uh, we also I'm a part of STEM club in our school. We do have a challenge of we do have an activity where students have to come out with the egg drop challenge. I hope you are a bit familiar with this egg drop challenge, where we try to uh, give the task was that you have to make such an arrangement or build such an structure where you have to let the egg drops safely on the floor. So this is a task which can be done in a day or two. That means you're doing a project. You're creating such an instruction, a structure. But on the same hand, if we talk about project-based learning, it is about we will not take an engagement which has a fixed learning outcome or a narrow learning outcome. Rather, focusing on the egg drop challenge, why not to focus on expedition to Mars or landing a rover on a particular celestial body, which will give us an edge that our our main project is to make or explore or do the expedition on some celestial object, and to do so we need to know certain concepts. We should be well versed with some skill sets. So that is how the project based learning work. Rather than make doing a task in a day or two, we focus on an objective which should let the inquiry for around 3 to 4 weeks, which should derive or which should lead to the learning engagements, and the outcome should be the final task. I hope I'm able to clear this. So here what we have done is, rather than focusing on this, we focused on the expedition or the rovers landing on the celestial bodies. Here this project has made us go through the need to know. That means we have focused on what are the celestial objects, what are do they have the similar surfaces, or do they have what should be the physics behind letting a spacecraft go into the space. So the project is deciding what you want to learn, and that is how you have created the learning engagement to achieve a project. That is how the difference come based on doing a project where you have a learning outcome and you do the necessary step to do so, which may not take a long time. And here, while the project based learning is about you have a fixed outcome, but to achieve that, we should have to inculcate certain skill sets or the conceptual understanding. We are doing it for the weeks, and so that the project should be ready at the last. I do have a picture on my screen which shows the journal IB inquiry. We do have a learning, and then the project is, first we want our children to be well versed with certain concept, and then we want them to do the diorama or the model or the mind map based on the conceptual understanding we have through the learning engagement we have discussed, or we did that. But the project based learning is about your learning is derived by the project, not the learning should be after the project. I will give you an example. My brother is a computer programmer, and in the real life how it works is he needs to work on certain apps, or to work on, since he know that this is his app, he needs to have that skill set to achieve the modifications in that app. So he needs to learn that set of code which will help him develop the app or the new software he is working on. The same thing works on, let's say, a music teacher or a music composer. The music composer knows that, okay, this is how my song looks like. So I should have to acquire certain skill set to reach that. So one thing is clear, that when we talk about project based learning, it is not a task which will be completed in a day or two. Second, we do have a project which we have decided pre-hand, and that will lead you to the learning. And we know that to acquire that, we need to know these many things, and that is how my learning engagement should support the end project. If as a teacher we hope to create projects that reflect the way learning take place, so we need to have certain questions and the answers for which we need to think before implementing the project based learning in our classroom or in our organization. Does the project require in depth inquiry in order to solve? Because we don't want, this is inevitable that a project based learning needs in depth knowledge, because you will not be able to present your product successfully until you have inquired in and out of it. We are also should be clear at beforehand that what our students should exhibit, what their product at the end should look like, and whom they are catering to, who should be their relevant audience. How many you should provide opportunities to the students to revise their work, because I will take you to the 8 essential components of PPL in my later slides. But these things, as a facilitator, we need to answer before deciding that this inquiry can be taken as a project based learning. We do have a relevant critique, or a set of teachers, or maybe set of people who can give the revision and who can review your projects and who can give you the relevant feedback. Do students have an opportunity to input their own? Yeah, the main important thing is you voice, choice, and ownership should also goes hand in hand in the PBL projects. This is the summary of what I have just said, what a PBL looks like. It is a project you are dealing, which should have a set objective or public product at the last, and that goes for around 5 to 6 weeks, so that you have in so that you make sure that it has in-depth inquiry, and it should the children should have, or the students should have, a room to investigate, and that should be relevant to their life. That also we need to make sure that it gives you the room to have a transdisciplinary exploration. As we know that we make sure that our TD theme is integrated with other subjects or other disciplines. Here also PBL give enough room for us to have the transdisciplinary exploration. Also, as a facilitator, if I talk about uh, the facilitator role, from just leading to a structured inquiry, we have been shifted to just providing the resources and let the children take the ownership or show the metacognitive skill of their product. The first question comes here: how should we start the PBL? What should be the first thing? How should, because we are very much used to how to derive the inquiry of the transdisciplinary themes we have. Here we should have to look at the three things. First, we do have a TD theme. We do have a problem or a central idea for the TD theme, and it should be relevant, or the student should find it as a, it should be passionate about that project. That is how the mixture of three things will give a room that, okay, this can be the perfect unit to start a PBL with. The I would like to take you to a few important essentials of PBL first. As I said, for an inquiry, we do have a central idea around which the whole inquiry revolves around. Here, we do have a driving question in PBL. The PBL driving question is also an open ended question, and it should give a chance for transdisciplinary approach. Uh, uh, we need to make sure that our driving question should not be what type of question or when type of question. It should always be how type. We generally prefer how type of question because that gives us an edge to explore deeper into it. So driving question is the heart of the PBL, I should say. The more good the driving question is, that will give you a better or an excellent outcome at last, or that will lead enhance or in-depth inquiry. Also, as I said, significant to significant content. It should give you the age appropriate. We need to decide on too many factors as facilitators that it should be age appropriate. It should not be a very simple thing, or it should not be very complex that the children will lose the interest in between. We need to also focus on what are the end products appropriate to the age or the content we are providing. As we said, PBL is like you do have an end product, and the learning should be leading to the end product or the public product, I should say. So we do have here a fixed outcome which should have a real life context. Need to know is the gaps to achieve that end outcome. Whatever you want to know for that inquiry is the essential learning. Feedback and revision, we can have parent as a person who can give you the feedback. It depends upon the theme or the question is. Let's say if I talk about my case, we have implemented a PBL in in the unit how the word works, and it was based on space exploration. So here the relevant feedback or the critique will be the person who is working maybe in Airbus. One of my parents was working in Airbus, and the person was our was a person who has reviewed our products or the projects. Here the feedback can be any physics teacher, IBDP physics teacher, or any teacher or a STEM teacher who knows the technology behind, who can help you in revising or give you an insight, because we have also focused on the nano rovers, that how the leading to a spaceship in the space works. We do have to focus on the voice choice and ownership. It should lead, the PBL is about leading a sustained inquiry and an innovation. We have created the prototypes of nano rovers, Mars rovers, and uh, we have done the telescope models. Not I should It's like the revision which can be done in the already existed telescope. And foremost important thing is the 21st century skills. PBL, since it is a real project based learning, so we do focus on the skills. Our main focus is to develop the skills. We do have a foundation skill set already, but to achieve that we need to acquire other things that will be inculcated as a 21st century skill during the essential learning. So this is how these are the 8 components of PBL. As I said that the driving question is the heart of the PBL. So I do have samples of the driving question. The driving question should ignite curiosity. They should be open ended, and it should give you a comprehensive view about your project which you are ultimately going to present at last. So here one of the driving question is, how can we design a successful rover expedition to Mars? So rather than just focusing on a challenge which we did in our STEM club, we have focused on a whole sum of PBL which has given us the room to inquire for about a week and lead the project. If I talk about some more driving question in to clear the understanding, or to make you well versed with the driving question is, how can class election help us better understand the electoral process? Let me give you an example. Rather than just focusing on, let's say in my classroom setting, I have conducted a mock debate about the pros and cons of elections. That's just a doing project. That is just similar to doing a project. Rather, I can have a whole full term elections in my class. How that will be considered as project based learning, because if I'm doing so, I am making sure that my I want to conduct the elections in my classroom setting. Achieve that stage, I need to know many things. How the elections look, the setting looks like. What is the electoral college, and which body should be maintaining all the electoral college, or which body should be taking the safety of the polling booths? What does the campaign looks like, or what are the guidelines for a candidate to have a campaign? So here, rather than just having a debate which will just tell you about the pros and cons of elections, going the same with the PBL will give you in-depth understanding, not just about the electoral system, the in-depth of how it happens, what are the bodies involved, and many more things. Another set of driving question can be, I have taken it from my units. Can bees solve puzzles, and do they have personality? We do have a theme, sharing the planet, and there we were focusing on uh, bird like adaptation, habitation, and here we had an activity which is a bird feeder activity. That simply means that you are having the bird feeder thing, so that you call the birds, feed them, and then you can understand their behavior. So rather than just having this activity, how can we turn this into a PBL is just doing an in-depth investigation about bees. Uh, how do the bees move? Do they live in colonies? Do they have hierarchy in colonies? And so on. So these project, I hope I'm able to clear it out that doing project is just a part of the learning engagement, where it might be a reflection or a one to day task, but PBL is in-depth inquiry where we have an outcome and we fulfill the essential learning to reach that. As I said, these are the essentials of PBL, which is driving question and so on. For as driving question is ready, for our simplifications, we need to divide the whole journey into benchmarks. That from our journey from start to the end product, as this I have pasted the picture during my planning stage of the PBL. We do have the driving question, and then we do have the space gallery walk, which was our ultimate product. We have divided the whole journey into two benchmarks. It depends upon the type of content you are inquiring into or doing the PPL into. Depending upon that, we can have the different number of benchmarks. If we see my benchmark, first benchmark was research, designing, and planning. This is about, since we were about to have the space gallery walk, where we were trying to showcase how the space technology. I have skipped this slide. Yeah. In my classroom setting, the unit was about the space phenomena. Here, in spite of just focusing on the solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse or maybe the tide formation, we have turned into a PBL unit where we wanted them to think that space exploration, the space can be explored using the space technology. As I said, we do have a central idea. Our central idea was space exploration, help us in knowing the universe. That is how we turn into our deriving question. How do our exploration of space and celestial bodies help us knowing about the space? So here, this is a driving question. And to support this driving question, we thought that our end product can be the space gallery walk. Here also, why we have chosen the space gallery walk, we there are multiple options you can choose. You can at present at last can have a documentary where you wanted to showcase through a documentary your in-depth exploration about the technology or space exploration, or your end product can be a space website. Why we chose as a space model to make sure that all the work can be seen, or I mean, we do have a quite good strength so that everybody's work can be showcased. And they were more interested in making the rovers and the helicopters and the telescopes. So we chose that as an outcome. So, like I said, that from the driving question, the journey from the driving question to the ultimate space gallery walk, we have divided into benchmarks. And these benchmarks is an easy way to track your progress. The first one being the research, designing, and planning. As I said, that voice choice ownership is also taken care of. Here, the students have we have well curated groups here. They have chose according to their interest. Maybe I some of the students in my class chose to go with the nano rovers, while some other have chosen to present rocket model, some have chosen as satellites. So here, based on the group what you have chosen to showcase, the project you want to showcase, the research, designing, and planning is specifically dependent upon your ultimate outcome. In the research, now I as I said that it is about how you incorporate the IB inquiry cycle into the PBL. Since this driving question to the model is the PBL thing, and we have a benchmarks. So we can incorporate our inquiry cycle within it. Is our benchmarks can be further divided into like tuning in or finding out, going further. If I see my first benchmark, it is about research, planning, and designing, where they are just knowing the basic phenomena, or what is the difference between a nano rover or a rover, or why we need to have that, and what are the components we should be having, what is the technology behind it. So here, from driving question to our first benchmark, we do have the stage as tuning in and finding out, where they're getting into the zone. Okay, this is our unit, and finding out, they're finding out all the things which is needed for them to research upon to get to the final model. And then our second benchmark was the construction and the assembly. Since here we have generally showcased the different prototypes of the different models, prototypes of the different models. Here, the construction and assembly is about once I am very much well versed with what my project, the principles, the working principle behind my model, and what are the terminologies involved in that. They started building it, assembling the parts of the components they have inquired into. Here, the second stage was mostly building the prototypes, checking the quality work, functionality of each and every component. Moving further, here comes going further stage, and the final is the model, the presentation, which is space gallery walk, and then it is the making conclusion stage. So why the benchmarks? As I said, driving question is the core of PBL, and then comes the benchmark. It depends upon how well you divide them into benchmarks and the number of benchmark. That gives you the wholesome structure, and it helps you in tracking your progress. As let me give you the glimpses of our journey based on these three benchmarks. So tuning in stage, as I said, from driving question to the benchmark one, we did virtual tour to space, which is a kind of letting them into the curiosity. Okay, this is what it is about. We have done space museum, letter to an astronaut. So I would say that between the benchmarks, we are focusing on the IB inquiry cycle, and we can have a learning engagement specifically depending upon the different groups. We did carousel brainstorming, and we have simplified the driving questions so that our students, since they are in grade 3, we have simplified them as per their understanding. So this is how we did this letter to an astronaut. was an easy way for us to figure it out. My students, some of them were interested in just going with the tidal energy, and some of them were interested in making the satellite or other prototypes. These are our carousel brainstorming session, where if I have chosen one project, so what should I have to focus on? This is just a planning, brainstorming plan, or I should say planning to delve deeper into the inquiry. This is the we have used hexagonal thinking routine. Here, since we do have a driving question, to make sure that our children are well versed with the driving question, we have simplified, and it's a reinstated strategy where we wanted to be assured that they are aware of this. We have co-constructed a success criteria. It was different, as it was based on the groups they have chosen. If it is a satellite prototype, then the learning objectives or the learning goal will be different for the different groups. As benchmark one is about research, designing, and planning. We different groups have researched and come out with different principles, and they have gathered the information, and they have delved deeper into the processes involved here. Here is the benchmark two, which is the prototype stage building. As we can see that different groups are working on the different prototypes they have chosen. And one thing was really surprising, that one set of student here, they have come out with their own code of making a rover which was really able to lift the objects up, and which can act as a perfect prototype for the one we really have. It was a similar prototype to the mom mission. So these are the different groups and their chosen project where they are building the prototypes on. And the benchmark three is the space gallery walk, where they have presented their whole sum of projects. During the process, we have to make sure that are we on the right track. So we do have a PBL gold standard. Here we need to check, we these serve as a checklist for us. Here we do have, are we on a sustained inquiry? Does it hold some authenticity? Student voice, choice, and ownership is given. We do reflect on after every benchmark. As I said that we do have critique and revision session. It can be a peer-to-peer one. One group is just reviewing the project of other group, so that leads to peer-to-peer learning as well. We do have a public product, as I said, the space gallery walk here. The challenges, problem, or the questions, as a facilitator or as a student who is undergoing the PBL journey, what challenges they are facing. So, to have a thorough checklist with us, we do have this PBL gold standard, and we need to make sure that we are taking care of this during the inquiry. Chips after PBL. I'll take you to this part first. As I said, that it is more about how we incorporate PBL into the inquiry cycle. Here, because our driving question was open-ended, and it has given us the transdisciplinary approach. We have made sure that we are integrating different subjects here, and the best part is, when we are delving into it deeper, we will see that our students on their own will come out with, okay, this we can learn it in math, or this to have a to design a satellite, they need to know about the certain concepts in math. What length, perimeter, generally we have focused on the measurement here. They have learned how to convert a 2D shape into a 3D shapes that help them in the designing stage of the benchmark. We have seamlessly integrated the visual arts here because in visual arts we do have a concept of designing that help them in assembling and construction of the prototypes they have made. We do have integrated literacy here, procedural writing, because they have to present it ultimately to the in the space gallery walk. They have written letter to an astronaut. They should know the format of the letter. So PBL also gave enough room for us to integrate and have the transdisciplinary exploration. And as we know that assessment is an important part of our inquiry here, we can take assessment on each and every step. As we know that ongoing assessment is something we focus on. And here, what we have done is, since it was like different groups are working on different projects, so best which worked for us was the tutoring this bracelet. Here, whenever a group was able to resolve any challenge of other group, they used to get that bracelet, and that leads to the collaboration as well among the groups, and also uh, peer-to-peer learning, as I said. Student tracker here, we have followed the student tracker here. What we have done is based on the benchmarks, the whole journey is divided into benchmarks. So we have made the three different student tracker, benchmark 1, benchmark 2, and benchmark 3. Here the student reflected the metacognition. They have taken the ownership of their learning. Let's say we are in a group and we are working for a satellite prototype. So the group members have to mark their progress after everything. Like, am I thorough with the benchmark one, or the learning engagement within benchmarks? So that is this has given us this has really worked out because first of all it leads to metacognition, as I said. And just a second. It has led to the meta competition, and second, that they were very. This has promoted the healthy competition among the learners. That okay, I am my peer has done this engagement, but I'm still yet to do it. So it has promoted the healthy competition, and also it was so easy for us to track the different groups, since there were different groups and there's a lot of just brainstorming, and we have to take care of the lot of students. So here it was easy for us as well as our students to keep our progress. So different color codes defines, or it can be a checklist type of thing, or here the color codes define that how much thorough they are with the concepts. Since the main part of PBL is also to inculcate the 21st century skills, so we have assessed them based on the different skills they have acquired at different stages of the PBL. If I talk about as a facilitator, I have observed few shifts after PBL experience, and we are hopefully planning that this year or the coming academic year we will incorporate more PBL into more TD themes. Here, the passive learning become active. Passive, I mean to say here is it was mostly a structured inquiry where we have a set. We do modified as per our students' understanding, but we mostly prepare a unit in advance with the learning engagements. Here, it's an active learning in the sense that we never know, might be a group will come out with a challenge which we even haven't focused or haven't thought of, but the other group is so prompt in resolving the queries of uh, other groups. I would like to share one experience here. When one of my group was working on the Mars rover, they were not able to fix the wheels, and once the wheels were fixed they were not able to move it that smoothly. So the other group has come out with an idea, this can be modified or these can be changed. So it is always an active learning because we are not really sure what challenges we might come up to. Led by content to led by inquiry, it means to say that here we do have a fixed outcome. So our inquiries based on the things, and it we might be we haven't thought of incorporating the solar panels. How do they work? But for the groups who were working on the satellite building, since most of the satellites are powered by the solar energy, so they have to go through how the solar panels look like, and this has added to more into the inquiry within the journey they have moved further. From teacher questions to more it like a student's question, different groups have come out with the different questions. Independent to the collaboration work was mostly evident here, because group to group reviews and all those things were there. Problem solving approach, inevitably it was there, and it was not more like a worksheet based, it was you working on a real project. So here, as I said, that it's not necessarily that it should be a space gallery walk. It depends upon the caliber of the students, or it depends upon the resources we do have at the moment. So our students have focused or emphasized on that we want to have a space gallery walk because we want to present our different prototypes. But we can have a documentary, a website, a play, or a model space station. It depends upon the need and the resources we do have. And then, since we know that the feedback and reviewing is always a part, either we talk about the inquiry cycle, we inquire into, or the PBL, we have the student reflection and the teacher's reflection, plus the accomplishment which we have. Since it was our first time we have incorporated it, so we have really come out well with the prototypes. I hope I'm able to take you through my journey of the PBL and reflect on my challenges and the the things I have, that the shifts that have taken place during my process. I would like to have some questions or have a discussion. I know that discussion will give you the more good insights. Can you give an example of a topic, how it can be taught the PBL way? Yeah. As I have given you the example in the at the start, or in like maybe there are so many STEM activities, like dropping an egg or landing it safely on the floor. Rather than we can have an PBL which talks about how the rovers have been landed safely on other celestial bodies. Or I have given you an example. Let's say we are talking. Let's take a TD theme where we are in place and time. We talk about, we have inquired into civilizations and space time travel. So we can have a journal rather than just focusing on how the uh, space travel looks like. We can focus on the creating a brochure, or the creating a brochure for the further exploration about different spaces, about different explorations, I mean to say, because our unit was about exploring civilization. On the same hand, we can have an exploration of different places through a brochure, which can be through a PBL inquiry. I hope I'm able to resolve that or give you an answer for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your lessons with
Yeah,
us.
yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful that you let me provide my share my experience about the PBL on your platform. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Rakhi ma'am has also said thank you. And I hope everybody has understood whosoever has joined today's session. So yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much. Have a
you.
nice day.